4 bridges collapse along the Ramu and Madang Highway, causing inconvenience. Central Governor distributes relief supplies to flood-affected areas. And PNG Ports supports EMTV in the coverage of the Pacific Games.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and thanks for joining me for tonight's news. Temporary relief supplies to a major flood-affected area in the Central Province were rolled out yesterday. Central Governor Kilahauda was active in delivering over 100,000 kina worth of goods and supplies to the people of Koyari in the Lower Sogeri area. More supplies will be brought to other parts of Central Province in the coming days.
It was a great relief to the people of Koyari, Lower Sogeri yesterday, as they were given much-needed supplies from the Central Provincial Government. 100,000 kina worth of goods and supplies were delivered to them. The Lower Sogeri people were most affected. They live along the slopes of the Sogeri Mountains, an area that received most of the heavy rains over the last 3 days.
I've got about 5,000 people living in the Lower Sogeri area, and the immediate affected ones are roughly around 170 families that's been affected, left homeless after the devastating flood.
The rollout of assistance will continue for the next 2 days. Central Province Governor Kilahauda says his office is waiting for a full report from the Central Province Disaster Office to roll out a major relief effort for the entire Central Province.
This is only an emergency for those people who are very, very much affected. Later on, when we do the full report, all Central Province will be supplied with all the necessary things that they need.
In the meantime, villages along the Magi and Hiritano highways will be receiving these temporary supplies. The governor says he will meet with the Prime Minister to discuss the damage to the 2 highways.
And I'm also seeing the Prime Minister tomorrow, and I will mention the plight of people of Central Province, and we will discuss these issues. And once funds are available, we will make sure that we look after everybody.
Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
Hundreds of people have been left stranded on sections of the Ramu to Madang Highway after 4 bridges collapsed due to continuous rain. PNV buses travelling into Madang town are completely cut off, forcing passengers to find alternatives. This is believed to be one of the worst natural disasters in Madang. Executive Director for the National Disaster Centre, Martin Mose, has called on provincial disaster managers to be proactive. He says their promptness could minimise disasters from happening, which could save lives and money. Disasters are becoming very costly as there is a lack of awareness on preparedness at the provincial levels.
The cost of managing disasters runs into the millions. Head of the National Disaster Centre, Martin Moses, says this figure could rise if proactive measures are not taken at the provincial level. Provincial disaster managers have a crucial role to play in managing disasters. However, Moses has noticed with concern that this is not happening. He wants disaster managers to collectively work with the National Disaster Centre to avoid this crisis. Provincial governments have also been urged not to turn a blind eye, but to assist their disaster office when necessary.
It depends very much on the commitment by provincial government, PDCs, provincial disaster coordinators from its respective provincial government. If you have the passion and commitment, if you want it plain on, then obviously you need to sacrifice time as well to get that done. And we have given them everything possible, understand the templates and everything else, and we told them that we are available to provide assistance. If you're having a problem, you don't know how to go about doing this, call on us.
Moses says advanced planning will begin at the national and provincial level as the country prepares for more disasters. He says recent natural disasters should act as a warning to disaster managers to start activating their disaster management plans.
Run back to Waigani. Call National Disaster Centre. They'll be waiting for us to go in. I don't like to see that. And that is why, I'd like to build the capacity of the provincial, disaster officer that they can be able to deal with situation and manage disaster risk at the provincial level. And all those, mechanisms that we are not talking about, the plan and others, those are the mechanisms that we would like to have in place so that it will continue to build the capacity.
Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
The continuous rain in Port Moresby is contributing to more than just the increase in water levels. It is contributing towards an increase in crime as well. Motorists in NCD are cautioned to be more vigilant when driving out, following reports of an increase in the number of carjacking experienced by drivers in the previous weeks.
NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Andy Bauer said the sudden increment of carjacking experienced within the past 2 weeks is most likely due to the rainy weather, where drivers are inclined to drive slower than usual when avoiding the city's poor road conditions. However, despite this, Mr. Bauer said drivers can avoid becoming a target for opportunists if they are more vigilant about their driving habits and use common sense.
They just need to inform their families back home that they are coming, but to also do a surveillance run through, just do a run through the house, just to make sure that there's no vehicle parked at the residence or even following at the back. And even the traffic lights too, where you see heavy water sitting in some of the areas or some of the sections in the city, we advise that drivers be very vigilant.
He said the frequency of these unfortunate events do not indicate the involvement of a specific syndicate, but rather opportunists who readily take advantage of unsuspecting drivers. It is not unusual for crimes like carjacking and breaking and entering to escalate during a heavy downpour. However, Mr. Bauer says NCD police are taking extra steps to prevent these crimes and ensure the safety of city residents.
Traffic lights, as well as in areas that we have an increased number of vehicles being stolen. Those are areas where we're now focusing on getting our police officers to do regular patrols or to do just basically a steady check to show that there are police officers stationary in those areas.
Vanessa Knight, National EMTV News.
The destruction of 2 transmission poles caused by flooding along the Usinobundi Highway has caused PNG Power Limited to carry out emergency load shedding in Madang. Heavy flooding from the recent rainfall toppled 2 transmission poles at Ome Village late Tuesday night. This has left a shortfall of 5 megawatts. PPL linesmen have located and assessed the fault. However, repair work is delayed as they cannot access the poles, which are underwater. The load shedding is expected to go on for 2 more weeks. The problem has also affected the fibre optic link and may have a prolonged effect on internet services in Madang and other centres. Television broadcasting will become crucial during the 2015 Pacific Games as live coverage will be telecast to people in provincial centres. Media New Guinea Limited, widely known as EMTV, is the lead broadcaster of the Games. In making sure the Games are broadcasted, PNG Ports Limited signed an agreement with EMTV today.
With 3 more months remaining before the Pacific Games, pressure is mounting for the organizing committee and construction companies to get the venues ready on time. The government still maintains the venues will be ready before the opening ceremony on 4th July. During the 2 weeks of sporting events in Port Moresby, city residents and those in nearby Central Province will have access to see the games played live. However, those in our provincial centers still have an alternative. They will be able to switch on to EMTV and watch all the live action. In making sure live broadcasts are transmitted, PNG Ports Limited has come on board with 66,000 kina assistance to EMTV. PNG Ports Corporate Communications Manager Peter Correll says this funding will help the national broadcaster telecast the games to its customers in 16 ports where it operates.
We decided that we should partner with MTV so that we are able to get the games out to the communities living there, so that they are able to watch the games. And by bringing the games to the community, we believe that this will inspire people in the communities to engage in sporting activities and aspire to live healthier lives.
MTV News Manager Neville Choi welcomed the input of PNG's leading port operator, saying it shows the commitment PNG Ports has for its business partners in provinces.
This support shows your commitment to bringing such an event like the Pacific Games to your customers and the people who deal with your customers.
MTV is the lead broadcaster of the 2015 Pacific Games. Quinten Alomp, National EMTV News.
Port Moresby Police will launch an operation soon to clean up Port Moresby in preparation for the 2015 Pacific Games. Acting Deputy Commissioner Jim Andrews says police will now arrest and charge anyone who is found throwing rubbish on the streets. He says those selling goods along the streets and especially at traffic lights, causing traffic obstruction, will also be charged. Police will also clamp down on old vehicle wrecks from the streets of Port Moresby. Police will be strictly enforcing traffic laws to free up the road, intersections and traffic lights so visitors to the games can move around freely. And National MTV News continues after the break. Police hierarchy concerned of the fitness of policemen. Also, Lands Department addresses illegal land grabbing and the winner of the Women of Courage Award. Stay with us for the details. Good to have you back with the news. Lack of fitness in the police force has contributed to poor police performances. This was revealed in a research conducted by Police Human Resources Management Director, Chief Superintendent Johannes Yappi. The research was part of a Royal PNG Constabulary Senior Leadership Development Program supported by the Australian Federal Police.
Following the week-long training, Director of Human Resource Management Chief Superintendent Johannes Yappi, in his research revealed that every year, 45 police personnel die due to lifestyle diseases, and it costs about 50,000 kina to repatriate the deceased back to their place of origin for burial purposes.
The police review report recommended for strict fitness tests to be conducted on all members of the constabulary. This has given rise to my research paper. The expected outcome of my paper is to have a fit and healthy police force that is responsive to the needs and expectations of the stakeholders.
He recommended that RPNGC maintained its fitness training programs not only during recruitment but after training as well.
I strongly recommend for a detailed healthy lifestyle policy to be developed for members of the constabulary and implemented. Physical fitness programs must be included in all ongoing trainings, including trainings that are conducted after recruit training and all the trainings in the provinces.
Although the Chief Superintendent Johannes Yappi says having an effective fitness program means an effective workforce. His research was among others from senior management officers who participated in the week-long leadership program. This is the third batch to participate in the series of senior leadership development program conducted by the Royal PNG Constabulary in partnership with the Australian Federal Police through the Australian Institute of Police Management. Other participants included Jiwaka Provincial Police Commander Joseph Tondop, who pushed for the community policing concept, while Garuka Police Station Commander Chief Inspector John Daviaga recommended that police maintain discipline at all times. PPC Central Chief Inspector Laimo Asi, in his research, recommended for recruits to be customer service oriented when dealing with the public. The youngest amongst the group, Chief Inspector Gideon Ikumu, who is the acting ACP reform, recommended for police to utilize information from OB reports as part of intelligence information to understand how the criminal world operates. The presentation of certificates and awards is currently underway tonight at the Officers' Mess at Bomana Police College. Bridget Komateb, National MTV News.
With land becoming a problem in the country, the Lands Department is calling on customary landowners to register their land. Lands and Physical Planning Secretary Ronnie Kilapat says the department is pushing for the National Land Development Program to curb illegal land grabbing. Today, 3 successful incorporated land groups, or ILGs, received their land title certificates in Port Moresby.
The registering of customary land title is not a normal thing in Papua New Guinea in the past, but it is significant as the nation is experiencing development boom. Land grabbing and illegal trends of claiming land is rife all around urban and rural places. But with the 2009 amendment to the Land Registration Act and Land Group Incorporation Act, customary land owner may now save their land.
Our problem is because long time ago, I was thinking too long. When something you come up with, you know what you mean. So long picking in or to go behind time.
Mr. Warvi said the National Land Development Program is progressing well, with the department pushing and encouraging applications from around the country. Prior to handing over the land title certificates, Land Secretary Romili Kilapat said ILGs is a shield against land grabbing.
So it's important that we manage this very resource properly. And I think through this process, it gives you more power, so to speak, to be in control of your destiny, to own something that will be with you for forever.
The three successful applicants were from Wewak Eben in Isipik, Madang and Karamoy in Simbu Province. Leo Kaiwok from Urboy ILG says most customary land owners are being pushed aside through backdoor deals and become strangers in their own land.
No is emotion. You not more corruption or under the table deal about because it's not any transparency today.
The issuing of 3 land certificates today brings the total to 9 land titles given so far. 2 more customary land groups have submitted their application and are awaiting approval by the Customary Land Division. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Statistics on child sexual violence in Papua New Guinea are alarming. There is also a high prevalence of family sexual abuse. These reports were revealed at the panel discussion of the Women's Forum today. The topic, combating sexual violence against children.
The discussions were based on the increased impacts of sexual violence in PNG, what can be done to reverse this trend, and the role the compensation culture plays in access to justice.
It's an issue that's it's growing at an alarming rate due to many factors that are affecting, are contributing to sexual violence, being children going through sexual violence. Many of these may range from neglected children to children who are exposed to pornography, the perpetrators being exposed to pornography and trialing out on children.
From the reported data collected in 3 consecutive years in Western Highlands Province by the Provincial Health Authority, the child sexual violence cases reported in 2012 were 222, in 2013 220 cases were recorded, and in 2014 145 cases were reported. Cases reported for adult sexual violence in 2012 was 88, 2013 110, and in 2014 it was just 57 cases reported. The total percentage of the 3 years show that the child sexual violence is relatively high, with 70% compared to 30% from adults.
You have to go into prostitution and being sexually abused. So there are many causes of child sexual abuse, and most of it are done by people who are supposed to love and care for the children, and mostly, in many cases, it's done by known perpetrators.
In Goroka, Eastern Highlands Province, the victims of child and family sexual violence ranges from a month-old baby to an 18-year-old male or female. Many of the perpetrators are relatives or close friends of the victims. Girls between the ages of 14 to 18 years old are also forced or pulled into sex work. However, according to Save the Children Goroka, the victims didn't get proper health services due to the attitude and behavior of the service providers.
For example, let's say the health workers at the clinic or even at the police station. Some of the, those MAPs, they are vulnerable and they are sometimes like marginalized. So when they want to seek help or access service, those service providers, they don't treat them as people. They see them for what they do, and they kind of the way they're talking to them is kind of they're stigmatizing them and discriminating them.
Although the health system, judiciary and police try to respond to child sexual violence, perpetrators are freed because of compensation. Desi Magaru says that compensation is a way of peacekeeping in the community. However, it prevents police from doing their job effectively. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Maria Nepal from the autonomous region of Bougainville is this year's winner of the U.S. Secretary of State's International Women of Courage Award. The award, presented this week at the Women's Forum in Port Moresby, recognizes outstanding women around the globe who have shown courage and leadership in advocating human rights, women's equality and social progress. Maria Nepal is a nurse by profession and played a major role at the height of the Bougainville crisis.
And to give her the International Women of Courage Award. And that woman is Maria Tuai Nepal.
Maria Lakamiku Tuai Nepal from the autonomous region of Bougainville is the PNG nominee and recipient of the 2015 Women of Courage Award. She was recognized for leadership in critical areas and for her commitment to comprehensive health services. Ambassador Note, speaking at the PNG Women in Business Forum, said Nepal's great work is rewarding, especially in the post-conflict situation in Bougainville. She did small things with great love.
During some very, very difficult times in Bougainville, she provided the best medical care possible to the people of that area and went on to do the same in the rest of the country. And she has always tried to bring peace and reconciliation in her professional and personal life.
Maria said serving others is not by name and fame, but with love for a change in individuals' lives and the community. For this change to happen, it depends on the support provided by both men and women.
I had my children who were very young. They were as old as 13. One of them is sitting somewhere here. And I had nephews. I had uncles. They were my workmates. They worked with me. They didn't leave me to, even though it was a hostile place, we all took the risk.
The United States Secretary of State's International Women of Courage Award honors women with courage and leadership who advocate for human rights, women equality and social programs. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
People living in special mining lease villages of Alipis and Apalaka in Pogera, Enga Province, will now have access to clean drinking water. Barrick New Guinea Limited has initiated a water supply project to supply water tanks to those areas. More special mining lease villages are expected to be covered under this project.
The threat of contamination of river systems in mining areas is always high, posing serious risk to clean drinking water for the people. As such, mining companies operating in those areas are always developing sustainable projects to mitigate this risk. Barrick New Guinea Limited, under its supplementary water project, is supplying water tanks to special mining lease villages. SML villages of Alipis and Apalaka are the latest to benefit from the project. The project is focused on forming partnership with village water communities to design, construct and manage rainwater catchment systems to help improve community access to sufficient clean drinking water.
Past studies, the water situation in the SML is such that there is a lack of access to potable water. So the overall aim of the SML water project is to increase community access to good drinking water.
Barrick's acting general manager Charlie Rose applauded the community for their commitment.
Roof, my house below you clean. You're keeping the roof clean, now water, and a clean long tank.
More than 1,500 people are now accessing clean and safe rainwater, where the tanks have been installed within company premises at Yoko 1. The other two tanks at the Christian Apostolic Church building. The project will be extended to SML villages of Yarik, Timorope, Pakian Camp and Mungulep. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
And now we check out the finance news. The Kina closed unchanged at $0.3775 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your Kina was fetching $0.37 $0.4817 Australian dollars, $0.3467 euro, and 44.6 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, copper, and cocoa all closed the day lower. Copper and crude oil closed lower as well, and palm oil closed the day higher. And lastly, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 27 points lower, the ASX closed at 57 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 53 points higher. And I'll be back with more news coming up after these short messages. Stay tuned. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. The current wet weather is the only factor that could affect the Pomio by-election. Speaking during the issue of writs today at the Government's House, Electoral Commissioner Andrew Trowan says preparations for the by-election are on schedule and he expects a smooth operation. 3.6 million kina has been released to fund it and polling is expected to start on May 9th. The Pomio seat was left vacant following the conviction and jailing of MP Paul Tienston last year.
The Electoral Commission is quite aware of the current and future outlook of the weather conditions in the country, especially in the New Guinea Islands region. In fact, we have received the weather advice yesterday by the National Weather Service on the current situation and future outlook of the weather conditions in the country, forecasting continued wetter than usual conditions over the New Guinea Islands provinces, including East New Britain. However, there are provisions in the organic law which can be invoked to accommodate such situation like the weather, preventing polling teams from conducting the election. So if such situations do arise, we will certainly invoke the provisions to delay the elections or extend the polling.
Central Province Governor Kila Hauda described the death of Goilala MP Daniel Mona as a great loss to Central Province. Governor Hauda said the by-election of a new MP will take time. However, he urged all Goilala people to remain calm during this mourning period of the late MP.
Governor Hauda says the death of Goilala MP Daniel Mona is a great loss for the people. The governor says the late Goilala MP was a great believer in change and brought development to his people.
We have lost a leader, a young leader, and we are all sorry to see him go.
His untimely passing has put a stop to his brief term as Goilala MP, a seat he fought to claim since the 2002 general elections. The process to elect a new MP will take some time. It will go through the different process like a by-election before a new MP is elected. However, Governor Hauda says the national government will work with its administration to fast-track this process. He urged all Goilala people to remain calm during this time of mourning and says his administration will continue to do the work of the late MP till a new member is elected.
When the time comes for a new leader to be elected, I want all of us to stand together and elect a new leader to come and work with the governor of Central Province and other leaders of Central Province to develop Goilala and at the same time Central Province.
The late MP died after falling ill late last year. He will be laid to rest at his home village in Goilala this weekend. Stanley Over Jr., National EMTV News.
The Bougainville Electoral Commission has warned all intending candidates for this year's autonomous Bougainville government's general election to stop early campaigning. Early campaigns are illegal and breach electoral laws, and those involved will be penalized.
The Bougainville Electoral Commission has received information and aware of the many intending candidates already conducting campaigns. Acting Bougainville Electoral Commissioner George Manu issued stern warning to candidates: stop conducting early campaigns and wait until election dates are finalized. Candidates are allowed to set up committees during this period, but gatherings should be strictly centered on campaign strategies and programs. Election dates will be finalized and announced next week with pending approval from ABG Speaker Andrew Miriki. Meanwhile, this year's election will be historical because it will be conducted by the Bougainville Electoral Commission. PNG Electoral Commission with the Australia and New Zealand Electoral Commissions are providing technical assistance and support. Apart from managing processes and preparations, the Bougainville Electoral Commission has also produced its own materials, manuals and forms for voter registrations. Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV News.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill will officiate at the 2015 Joint Supervisory Body of the National and Autonomous Bougainville Governments. The meeting will be held in Ottawa in Kieta tomorrow. We'll see both governments enter into mediation and discuss important issues surrounding the referendum, the decider of Bougainville's future political status. Bougainville Chief Secretary Monovi Amani, in an earlier statement, said the meeting is important as it charts waters for a referendum to be held between 2015 and 2020. The World Bank and the Department of Finance yesterday launched the World Bank's report on the observance and standards of codes, accounting and audit module in Port Moresby. The review exercise, conducted at the request of the PNG government, is to propose policy recommendations to strengthen the institutional framework that underpins accounting and auditing practices in the country.
Papua New Guinea's corporate financial reporting and auditing is set to be strengthened, thanks to the World Bank report on the observance of standards and codes, accounting and auditing model. The report focuses on the strengths and weaknesses of the accounting and auditing environment that influences the quality of corporate financial reporting and involves both a review of mandatory requirements and actual practices.
An overview of the financial reporting, corporate financial reporting framework in PNG. It's been conducted over the last year. It was a very collaborative effort driven by the government through the Secretary of Finance, and it's come up with some key recommendations to strengthen corporate financial reporting and audit in PNG.
The report identified weak areas that required improvements, such as the dualistic framework for the financial reporting and auditing. The current dual reporting framework has resulted in obscure corporate financial reporting practices that weaken the business's environment in PNG, making this report important in any country and even more important in PNG.
And in this area of accounting and auditing, when we combine it with the financial sector, insolvency rights, creditors' rights, this is actually what underpins the financial sector in any country and the private sector growth agenda in the country. So where we see it, it's actually the most integral part of when we talk about growth and the economy, underpinning fundamentally how the economy is supposed to work, access to credit, access to financial services, playing by a common set of rules, making domestic companies competitive and giving those domestic companies the ability to compete overseas as well.
Adelaide Xerox Kari, National EMTV News.
And National EMTV News continues with Trukai Sports. That's coming up next, and the details after these short messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Sports Minister Justin Chichenko says the heavy downpour in Port Moresby will not affect the work on all the Pacific Games venues. That's from after almost a week of heavy rain and winds in most parts of the country, including the capital. Rain and strong winds forced construction workers at most venues to take shelter. With 114 more days to go before the Games, rain and strong winds are expected to continue this month, as predicted by the National Weather Service this week. But Chichenko said all the venues are already off the ground and work will continue as scheduled, with everything to be completed on time. The annual SP Sports Awards is scheduled to take place at the end of the month. Finalists for each of the categories were announced today by the chairman of the selection panel, Moses Koiri. MTV's Elijah Lovett reports.
This prestigious event is the premier sporting occasion of the year in the sporting calendar. Chairman of the SP Sports Awards, Moses Koiri, said they had the task with the important duty of deciding on the 3 finalists of each category, and was glad to announce the 2015 awards finalists today at SP Brewery.
My fellow panelists and I have been tasked for this important occasion to go through the 126 nominations that we received through for this year, and to finally end up with the 3 finalists in each of the categories.
SP Brewery Managing Director Mr. Stan Joyce commended Moses Koiri and his team for finalizing and announcing the 2015 finalists, and was glad to announce the guest speaker for that night.
Because, ladies and gentlemen,
our guest speaker on the evening will in fact be the one and only, the great Mal Meninga, who will be joining us here.
There are 12 categories in this year's awards, which include Sports Photo of the Year, Sports Media, Sports Official of the Year, Best Sports Person with a Disability, Junior Female and Male Athlete, Team of the Year, Female and Male Athlete, the National Performance Award and the Community Sports Initiative Award. The newest inclusion in this year's awards is the People's Choice Award. The People's Choice Award is to be run through the SMS voting system. The public will choose from the 3 finalists from the 4 categories of the Male Athlete of the Year, the Female Athlete of the Year, Team of the Year and National Performance. The finalists from these 4 categories are eligible for this award. Elijah Lavette, National, EMTV Sports.
And True Kai Sports continues with more sporting action. That's coming up after the break. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports.
Good to have you back with True Kai Sports. Turning overseas to NRL. NRL coaches are calling on the NRL to review the transfer system. This follows news that Manly's Kieran Foran is planning to exit the club and join Parramatta on a 4-year deal worth a stunning $4.7 million.
Under the current rules, players are allowed to sign deals with rival teams well in advance of leaving their current club. And as Kieran Foran looks like the latest player to depart Manly, the system is receiving widespread criticism.
It's an embarrassment to the game to me personally. Okay, we're all in on it. We all do it, unfortunately.
The hits keep coming for the Queensland Reds, who have been forced to rest star signing James O'Connor again. The former Wallaby will miss Saturday's clash against Australia's leading Super Rugby team, the Brumbies, with an ongoing leg injury. David Warner has backed Australia as the #1 team at the Cricket World Cup. The Aussies play their final pool game against Scotland in Hobart on Saturday. Their quarter-final will be held at the Adelaide Oval Friday week. The NBL is prepared to move ahead with a 6-team competition next season without the Wollongong Hawks or the Townsville Crocodiles. The 2 regional teams have been placed into voluntary administration. And Chelsea's dream of winning 3 titles this year has been dashed, eliminated from the European Champions League by Paris Saint-Germain. The 2-2 draw allowed PSG to advance on the away goals rule. Elsewhere, Bayern Munich also qualified for the quarters with a 7-0 thumping of Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk.
And that wraps up our True Kai Sports segment tonight. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay tuned for that.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Good to have you back with True Kai Sports. Turning overseas to NRL. NRL coaches are calling on the NRL to review the transfer system. This follows news that Manly's Kieran Foran is planning to exit the club and join Parramatta on a 4-year deal worth a stunning $4.7 million.
Under the current rules, players are allowed to sign deals with rival teams well in advance of leaving their current club. And as Kieran Foran looks like the latest player to depart Manly, the system is receiving widespread criticism.
It's an embarrassment to the game to me personally. Okay, we're all in on it. We all do it, unfortunately.
The hits keep coming for the Queensland Reds, who have been forced to rest star signing James O'Connor again. The former Wallaby will miss Saturday's clash against Australia's leading Super Rugby team, the Brumbies, with an ongoing leg injury. David Warner has backed Australia as the #1 team at the Cricket World Cup. The Aussies play their final pool game against Scotland in Hobart on Saturday. Their quarter-final will be held at the Adelaide Oval Friday week. The NBL is prepared to move ahead with a 6-team competition next season without the Wollongong Hawks or the Townsville Crocodiles. The 2 regional teams have been placed into voluntary administration. And Chelsea's dream of winning 3 titles this year has been dashed, eliminated from the European Champions League by Paris Saint-Germain. The 2-2 draw allowed PSG to advance on the away goals rule. Elsewhere, Bayern Munich also qualified for the quarters with a 7-0 thumping of Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk.
And that wraps up our True Kai Sports segment tonight. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay tuned for that.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region. Squalling showers expected in the nation's capital. Squalling showers plus rain in Daru and Kerala, and showers in Poponeta and Alatown. In Momasa region, Lake City to look forward to showers. Madang, Wewak and Vanimore, possible squalling showers. In the New Guinea Islands, all centres to look forward to squalling showers plus rain. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres showers, then morning fog. Now, before we go, quickly recapping our top stories again tonight. 4 bridges collapse along the Ramu to Madang Highway, causing inconvenience. Also, Central Governor distributes relief supplies to flood-affected areas, and PNG Ports supports EMTV in the coverage of the Pacific Games. And that's how we wrap up tonight's bulletin. From the news team, I'm Tokana Hasavi. As always, thank you for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night.